Hello, how you guys doing? I saw this title the other day, and that's really intriguing to me. Ireland's economy is in trouble. It's Trump. You know, it's like how people used to say, thanks, Obama. Except with Trump, it's actually, like, true. Like, thanks, Trump. Anyway, it's by TLDR News EU, which is an excellent channel. It's really an excellent channel. Check out their stuff. I mean, you already know it, don't you? Because it's really great. Up-to-date news, and it feels very neutral and just fact-based, and I just like it. Let's go.
As you might already know, Ireland's economy depends heavily on big American multinationals,
I did not know that.
especially in the tech and pharmaceutical sectors, who've set
Intel, Google, HP.
up shop in the small European economy to minimise their tax rates, which
Of course I do.
has long inflated Irish GDP and filled government coffers. However, the Irish model now looks in serious jeopardy after Trump imposed unprecedented tariffs on pharmaceutical exports to the US as part of the recent US-EU trade deal, before announcing on Tuesday that he planned to impose additional so-called Section 232 tariffs on all pharmaceutical imports, which Trump claims will rise to 150% within 18 months and eventually...
What? We're going to have to pay 250% tariffs on our own company's meds?
to a staggering 200
Sometimes, I mean, it seems like so often Trump does something, and I'm like, does he think about all the implications of what he's doing? I mean, it's almost impossible to, I guess. But I think he doesn't even really try sometimes. I mean, the implications of putting, for instance, like his trade war with China in particular, you know, the amount of trade that goes through China. It's like, you just did this on a whim? You just put like 200% tariffs on them on a whim? Are you sure? Did you think about this? But this is an example of clearly probably didn't think about it too much.
50%. So in this video, we're going to have a look at why Trump's tariffs are jeopardising Ireland's economy and what could happen next. Could you rank every single politician in the world? Here are our thoughts. And argue with us on our podcast, The World Leader Leaderboard. Find it over on the TLDR Podcast YouTube channel or in your favourite podcast app.
I love that idea.
Let's start
I'm going to check that out.
with some context. While Ireland is now seen as a wealthy nation, that hasn't always been the case. For much of the 19th and early 20th centuries, the country was marked by mass emigration, deindustrialisation under British rule, and an increasingly protectionist economic policy, which meant Ireland was among the poorest countries in Western Europe. In the
I had no freaking idea.
mid-20th century, badly affected by the oil crisis, industrial strikes and political crisis, economic growth in Ireland stagnated. In the early 1980s, Ireland became known as the sick man of Europe, with a GDP per capita roughly a third lower than that of the UK or
And that's great. It's higher than the UK and Ireland and France. Now he just explained that that's kind of inflated. You know, the GDP number is a little bit artificial, you could say. But so does that money actually translate to like average salaries in Ireland?
France. It was only really in the 90s when Ireland began converging towards its European neighbours. From 1995 to 2000, Ireland's growth averaged 9.4%.
Damn!
And in 2001, it achieved the highest GDP per capita in Western Europe, earning it the nickname the Celtic Tiger. While there have been some occasional hiccups, Ireland's rapid growth has basically continued, helped by its
Interesting.
membership of the EU. Now, the main reason for Ireland's
I had no idea about any of this. I don't know anything about Ireland.
freakishly rapid GDP growth is its pro-business policies. In short, Ireland's open economy, functioning legal system, and perhaps most importantly, super low corporation tax rate of 12.5% have made it the tax haven of choice for West.
That's interesting because it's kind of like, why Ireland? But I think him saying it's functioning legal system, you know? It's an aspect of this that's probably overlooked by some people. You know, that's a really great explanation. That's fascinating. Because look, I mean, they could go to Bulgaria and maybe some too for a lower tax, but
And
you
multinationals,
need that functioning legal system to protect your intellectual property and stuff like that, right?
especially in the IT and pharmaceutical sectors. To take advantage of Ireland's low corporation tax rate, many multinational companies claim that most of their business takes the form of exports from their Irish subsidiaries. The precise mechanism is a bit complicated, but the basic idea is that when, say, Apple sells an iPhone, it claims that most of the value comes from research and development operations in Ireland. In other words, despite the fact that an iPhone is designed in California and built in China...
Yeah, it literally says that on the iPhone. Or it used to. They probably don't anymore because Steve Jobs died. Yeah, they took it away. If you're wondering why my iPhone's this color, it's because for some reason it was $100 cheaper than every other color. Nobody was wondering that, but that's why. Anyway, yeah, Steve Jobs died, so they took off that. Designed by Apple. And I only say that. It didn't really make any sense if you don't know me. I always talk about how ever since Steve Jobs died, Apple has gone slightly downhill. Anyway, a lot of people hate Apple to begin with anyway. Let's continue.
When you buy one, most of the money goes to Apple's Irish subsidiary.
Interesting.
In pharmaceuticals, major US drug companies like Pfizer actually manufacture drugs in Ireland. Those drugs are then exported globally, including back to the US, where the American parent company purchases them from its Irish subsidiary, and the profit is booked and taxed at 12.5% in Ireland instead of 21% in the US.
Wow, that's a big-ass difference. That's unfreaking real. Wow. But now they're going to have to shut this whole scheme down, huh? With tariffs that high.
This investment from...
I mean, that's really just a scheme. That's ridiculous.
From US pharmaceutical and tech multinationals has been the cornerstone of Ireland's recent economic success. These companies haven't just created tens of thousands of jobs. About 15% of the Irish workforce work directly or indirectly for US companies. They've transformed entire...
I mean, so it's not like they can just up and move out of Ireland, though. You know? They can't just... We're gone. It seems like a huge amount of their operations actually do take place in Ireland.
Towns and cities. Dublin has become a major hub for US tech giants, while pharmaceutical manufacturing is spread across the country, with Cork in particular being a key cluster. Meanwhile, corporation tax receipts have surged from €10 billion in 2019 to €28.1 billion in 2024. In fact, a 2022 report...
Because the companies have grown so much, right? Like, so much. So, yeah, they're not being taxed that much, just 12.5, but for hundreds of billions of dollars, you can get a decent amount of money.
By the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council, revealed that just 10 companies were responsible for 60% of Ireland's corporate tax revenue,
Whoa.
with 3 of them accounting for 1/3. That level of concentration has helped deliver record budget surpluses, projected to hit €8.6 billion this year, but also poses risks if those companies pull back. What's more,
I had no idea about Ireland's economy.
Politicians aren't entirely comfortable with this state of affairs, and it's something Trump has occasionally expressed irritation about. In his first term, for instance, Trump and his team sometimes framed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which slashed the US corporation tax rate from 35% to 21%, as a way to discourage American companies from shifting profits to low-tax jurisdictions like Ireland. Now, with Trump ramping up his trade war, Ireland is once again in the spotlight.
It is an interesting thing. I mean, you have to admit it's an interesting thing, right? Because a lot of people, I mean, it's easy to say, raise corporate taxes. You know, a lot of people are like, yeah, that makes sense. Raise them. Why are they paying a low percentage? But then they do shit like that. You know, they just leave. And then you're not making any tax revenue.
The country currently runs a goods trade surplus of over €50 billion, with the US, and as of last year, behind only China, Mexico and Vietnam, and ahead of both Germany and Japan. A large portion of that imbalance is driven by Irish pharmaceutical exports, which account for around 60% of Ireland's total exports to the US. Many of the exporting companies are American-owned, and earlier this year, Trump claimed tax revenues rightfully owed to the US Treasury were being siphoned off, and accused Ireland of, quote, taking pharmaceutical companies. Other figures in Trump's administration...
Well, this definitely doesn't really seem like Ireland's fault, you know?
...have echoed this sentiment. The US Commerce Secretary called Ireland his favourite tax scam, one he looked forward to, quote, fixing, and argued that it's nonsense that Ireland, of all places, runs a trade surplus at our expense. Then last week, the US and EU reached a trade deal which imposed 15% tariffs
This is all really interesting. I'm not going to lie.
on most EU exports. And for the first time, pharmaceutical products were on the list. While Trump has long vowed to bring drug manufacturing back to America, industrial leaders and the powerful pharmaceutical lobby in Washington have been very successful in lobbying against pharmaceutical tariffs, arguing they could cause drug shortages and limit access to critical medicines. Anyway, while the European Commission has
It seems like in the short term, this could be a freaking disaster. If there's tariffs that high, I mean, they can't just move all their operations here to the U.S. immediately. So in the meantime, Pfizer, J&J, their products are going to, what? They're going to double in price here in America? And it's already ridiculously expensive here in America.
insisted that tariffs will not exceed 15% for pharmaceuticals, the US is still conducting Section 232 investigations into pharmaceutical and semiconductor imports. And on Tuesday, Trump told CNBC that while he would start with a small pharma tariff, he intends to raise it to 150% within 18 months, and eventually to 250%.
Jeez.
If Trump follows through, this could be terrible news for the Irish economy and Treasury. While the cost of relocation for pharmaceutical or tech companies makes a full-scale relocation unlikely, with a survey by the American Chamber of Commerce showing that over 2/3 of US companies in Ireland plan to keep investing over the next 5 years.
And I mean, once this happens for a long enough time, I feel like there's something to be said for the fact that there's now a network, a huge network of people in Ireland that are highly skilled at producing drugs, as far as the operations, the manufacturing plants, the people, the whole network of people. You have a strong network effect that you can't just move here to America, just like willy-nilly.
Even a modest slowdown or tax restructuring could have an outsized impact on Ireland's economy.
So it just sounds bad for everybody, to be honest.
In fact, Ireland's economy contracted during the last quarter for the first time since 2023, driven by a decrease in the multinational-dominated sector of industry. If Trump did actually impose, say, a 250% tariff on pharma imports into the US, that might actually force pharma companies to relocate. As former Taoiseach Simon Harris warned last year, the country could lose up to 10 billion euros in corporation tax revenue if just 3 major US firms repatriated their profits.
Which $10 billion to Ireland, what's the population of Ireland? It's oh my goodness, it's only 5.3 million. See, that's a huge factor for me because when I hear $10 billion tax revenue, as an American, like federal tax revenue, it's not that much in America. But if you have 80 times less people, so that tax has to, fund infrastructure and stuff for, obviously, that's a way bigger slice of the pie.
Now, of course, with large budget surpluses and a strong fiscal position, Ireland has a financial cushion to weather any short-term shocks. But there's also a more difficult structural problem for Ireland here. Namely that, as American politicians on both sides of the political aisle look to reshore certain strategic industries, Ireland's economic model will come under increasing pressure.
Wow, yeah, what does Ireland do here? What does Ireland do? That is so tough.
Everything we've discussed in today's video plays into a broader sense of uncertainty in the world at the moment. And who's so often in the middle of all that? Well, the United States. So in the next issue of Our Magazine Too Long, we're discussing this geopolitical shift and whether we're currently observing the end of the American order. In that section, we discuss everything from the collapse of democratic norms in the US to the decline in American soft power, to issues with the US economy or the battle for universities, before discussing who could potentially take over in a post-America world. So if you
Goddamn China.
want to find out what we really think, now's your chance. It's
Thank God U.S. presidential terms are only 4 years long, you know what I mean? I mean, yeah, I know Tyrant Trump says he's going to run for a third term, but fuck him, you know what I mean? He can't do that. So, not happening.
Not just the US, though. This
But I mean, that is a long time, 3 years.
issue is our longest ever at 78 pages, full of our very best journalism and analysis. So we also get into why Germany's military might is growing, if Farage could become the UK's Prime Minister, why countries are outsourcing their migrants, why the global order is collapsing with Professor James Kerr-Lindsay.
This all looks really fascinating. Go check out the toolong.news. I mean, it really is really interesting. It's their news paper, I guess. I'm going to check it out. As always, great information from TLDR News EU. Phew. Wow. That was all really fascinating. And I don't even have any... I have to think about all that for a while to even think about what I think about it all. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow.